Okay, so on this video we will want to be creating, where our goal is to create a scenic, realistic scenic portrait, I guess you can say, with just using simple tools and no filters or copy and pasted images. So first thing I want is to create a blue backdrop. This would be the water. Now, and once you create this blue layer, you want to create a new layer. And on that layer, select about halfway, select from path using the paths tool, and you want a slightly lighter color, slightly lighter blue to act as the sky. So as you can see, there's the water right here and the sky. There's a clear difference, so that's the horizon. Now the first thing I want to do is to create a sort of base of a tree trunk, and you'll want this on a new layer. I would call it tree or something similar. Create the basic outline of the tree, draw some branches, etc. Now you can get more in depth, making it look more realistic by, smudging around the edges to make it more jagged looking, thinner, less perfect. Now, to make the leaves, normally on other programs this would be very hard because you'd have to create the leaves by hand, but in Gimp, in the paintbrush, you can select a vegetation brush. It's right down here towards the bottom, vegetation 2. Now you want it to be pretty big, and select some green. I would suggest like a dull green first, so we want this to be pretty big. And now, on a new layer, see, you just start painting with it. So as you can see, it's pretty realistic looking leaves. Now your goal is to go around the tree in an outside fashion. Do a rough outline of the tree, and then pick a slightly darker shade of green, and then continue slightly on the inside of that. And this will create a layer of like depth. And once you accomplish that, it should look something like this. So as you can see, it's the multiple colored leaves getting slowly inside. This island you want to add layer on is just using some different shades of green and white, blending them together to create a depth look. And then the next step will be to create the islands on the horizon. Alright, so here you can see that I have the islands in the background. Now these islands I spent almost 10 or 15 minutes working on, each one individually, so your project's gonna have to be as specific. Now what I did was I used the basic green, drew an outline of it, and then used darker shades to color in portions, and then brought strips of white inside and smudged them together. And this will create that definition look, as you can see right here, the ridges lapping in over each other. Next we'll create a dynamic lighting, so you'll want to create a new layer. Now as you can see right here, I have the whole project created. I'm going to show you one at a time how to do each part. So we go to light and shadow, then lighting effects, no, you don't go lighting effects, you go to gradient flare. There we go, sorry about that. So you'll want to move this You'll want to pick, say, like a distant sun, and then pick a point somewhere in the center where you want it. Bring up the radius a bit. You want to keep it somewhat light, yellowy, and then create it. Now, you'll create this sunlight. If you did the tree properly, you didn't make the tree too dense. You can see the bits of the light shining through the tree limbs. Now I have a properly adjusted one right here, and as you can see, the light is shining through the leaves, so it looks like there's a sun right behind, and you can see the light coming through. Now because of this, we're going to have to create a shadow on the water. Now why I did create this shadow was I duplicated the tree, then rotated it, (180 degree rotation), and then moved it down where it would be the direct opposite. I erased the island from that layer. Now as you can see, the tree looks like it's coming down to water, but it looks very full. So I'm going to bring the opacity down, and now it looks like a deep shadow on the water. You could use the curves tool to adjust this to make it look more realistic. I did the curves tool multiple times throughout here just to make it look more realistic, but you can definitely do it without. So I'm going to add the shadow that I created beforehand, and you see it looks like a dark shadow on the water. Now the next thing we're going to do is create trees coming on this left and right side, and you're going to repeat the process used to make this one on one corner. So I'm going to show you this. As you can see, I used that brown tree limbs to create a outline for what my tree want to be, and then I used the paintbrush with the leaves brush to create the tree. And now because the sun is shining towards the picture, you don't have this tree doesn't require any shadow. Now for the left side, I did the same thing. You can see one branch coming out, just the upper right corner. Now for this kind of image, you don't need to be very specific. You can adjust it. You make the trees different looking. I just took like a classic, stereotypical looking tree and created it. You can create multiple different types of trees. Pines would be probably the hardest, I think, because there's not a specific brush for it. Now, next thing is we need the sky to be less sparse. So I create some clouds, and all that I did to create some clouds was I picked a white paintbrush and put a couple dots on the sky. And I'll take the smudge tool and smudge them up so it looks like a little wisp of clouds. And it's an easy way to create realistic looking clouds without using any type of filters where it can look too perfect. Now last thing is to create sort of a deep, darky, deep, contrast in this water. Now I also went ahead and created a reflection of the islands in the water, or a shadow. That's optional. What I did for that is I just selected the islands, flipped them, and then used the perspective and the shear tool to make them angled. Now what I did to add this effect right here on the water to make it more murky is I took a darker shade of blue and dabbled it around in the water. So I just, took it, put it here and there in the water, smudged it, and then I also took the brush, the burn tool, took a brush where it has sparse where it's very sparse, and then go to burn or dodge. Increase the size, and then slowly go around here, darkening and lightening portions of the image, and that would come through and smear it. It's a lot of trial and error to create a proper looking water, because it's very hard with all the different contrast. But that is a quick overview of how to create a realistic looking island.